Hey guys, how you guys doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. For today's video, guys, we are in my mum's car. My mum's car's a baller whip. Look at this. That's an armrest. Imagine my mum going downtown like this. So for today's video, guys, I decided to do a video on how to drive a manual car, smooth, sexual, and just damn right, just like butter. Oh my god. Woof. Now, I'm not a pro driver or anything. All I'm saying is I've been driving for a year. I didn't start off as the smoothest driver. I think for the first month or so, that was probably the most unsmooth. And I've just, you know, tried to get a bit more smoother as I'm driving. We're going to go over the obvious and we're going to go over the complicated, but all the complicated to explain. Without further ado, let's do it. Now the first kind of category that I'm going to talk about is the clip. 12-year-old jokes. The clutch. So being smooth in a manual car is mainly to do with the clutch. If you're smooth with the clutch, you're smooth with the ladies. Or boys. Whatever you like. This is literally going to sound so stupid when I say it, but this is literally the very first like kind of step, I think. Moving off hill starts, moving off in general, you got to make sure you're using enough gas. For example, if you're on a hill, put your clutch in, first gear, you put your revs up and you lift the clutch to the biting point. If the car starts to like shake and go like this, you got to add a bit more gas, you know? Your car wants a bit more gas. Or even just pulling out from a flat surface, you got to make sure you're giving it enough gas. That's the first kind of thing, moving off smoothly. And you want to make sure, obviously, the clutch is coming out smooth to the biting point, and then from the biting point, release it slowly. The next step is changing gears, right? Now, this can be upshifting or downshifting, going to a lower gear. And I think, honestly, to make these changes up and down smooth, it takes time, and still, you kind of mess them up. Like, if you don't mess up gears, shut up. Yes, you do. Shut up, Samantha. You do mess up your gear changes. And Bob, get the fuck out. So when changing up a gear smoothly, so that means literally just you don't even feel yourself changing gears, or even where the passenger's literally like, did you just change the gear right then? It takes practice to make it that smooth. Yours might be smooth already, but like to make it buttery smooth, like driving around in a butter machine, being butters, it's not a nice feeling actually, but the first kind of gear change to make it smooth is the motherfucking seesaw method, right? Clutch in to change gear to a high gear, and then obviously this is the slow version, but then once it gets halfway to about the biting point, you start adding a bit more of gas, and then you go from a seesaw. Actually getting this kind of like gear change like smooth, it's a little bit tricky actually, because sometimes you might rev a little bit too much, and sometimes you might rev at a wrong point, or you might rev a little bit too less. I think with most cars, first to second is the hardest to make smooth. If you can nail first to second, you can nail any of them. Now the next kind of way of making a gear change smooth is basically when changing gears, when you engage that clutch to change gear, instead of going basically, let's say you're in first gear, you want to go clutch in second gear and then release. It's a bit slower than that, because if you do it that quick with no gas, you're doing head bopping, mate. Honestly, you're like at a nightclub. You'd want to go at like this kind of speed, depending on the car you have. In my car, it's kind of like this. You're in first gear, clutch in, second gear, and then release. So it's a bit of a slow gear change, but obviously you're just waiting for the revs to drop to the next gear. In first gear, the revs are going to be higher, and then in second gear, they're going to be a bit lower. So you're just waiting for the revs to drop to the second gear. Now, the next category is downshifting, basically. Changing gear, downshifting, going from third to second. Rev matching makes it a lot smoother, and it makes it so you don't have to slow down. So rev matching basically comes in handy for like overtaking or something. Let's say you want to go from fifth to third. If you went from fifth gear at 50 miles per hour to third gear at 50 miles per hour, you're saying bye-bye, mate. You say bye to your friends and family, you're in fucking China, mate. Rev matching is basically bringing the revs up to the gear in the lower gear. So here's an example. So this is 30 miles per hour in fourth gear. This is 30 miles per hour in third gear, and this is 30 miles per hour in second gear. As you guys can see, there is a difference between each gear at the same speed. This is the revs. Now, if you want to go from 4th gear to 3rd gear, you'd have to put the clutch in, disengage the gear. You could either hold your foot on the accelerator until it gets that kind of point. As you're changing down, just leave your foot on the accelerator. That is probably the way most people do it. Sometimes it can be smooth. Now, how I do it is by blipping the throttle. That just sounds cool, doesn't it?
So for this method, I'm going to be showing you an example of how I went down from 3rd to 2nd. Here's the difference from 3rd to 2nd gear. And we basically have to hit the accelerator as we put the clutch in to get to the revs that we need to have for 2nd gear.
This takes a while to get used to. If you would want to go from 4th to 3rd, you'd only have to tap the throttle a tiny bit. Depending on your car, you'll get used to it. If you'd want to go from, let's say, 5th to 3rd, it might be a lot more revs that you'd want to give it. There's a load more videos on rev matching, probably better than my explanation, but that's kind of how you do it, kind of, if that helps. So by rev matching, if you would want to overtake somebody, it wouldn't be like a little bit jerky. Once you get used to basically getting the revs up to the revs in the lower gear, you could make that gear change so you wouldn't even feel it, basically. Now, the next category is braking, right? So basically, how to make your braking smooth is to, firstly, not to brake. You came in for a smoothness video, mate, honestly. This is literally the most obvious thing ever, but let's say you are coming up to a red light. Instead of like still accelerating towards a red light, take your foot off the accelerator and roll to the red light. And if you actually do have to brake, because you do have to brake sometimes, that's what they're made for, there's this thing called the chauffeur braking, basically. Instead of just kind of holding down the brake and then coming to a stop, when you come to a stop, just before you stop, you release off the brake and reapply it. And that way, it takes away that little bump you get from coming to a stop like this. You'll be driving like a limo driver, mate. And obviously when braking, just gradual braking, mate. Now the last kind of thing is steering, basically. I think this is probably the most easy one to just do. It's just making sure you're doing it and making your passengers fly from side to side. Like, you don't want that. So if you need to turn fast, you can do it progressively. You can be like, I just do sound like an old man. That's basically covered all of the kind of smoothness kind of things in driving, basically. So hopefully that didn't sound too obvious. Hopefully it made sense. Anyway, guys, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Thank you guys so much for all the support. If you've got any other tips for making driving smooth, then comment that down below and I'll subscribe to your channel. That is unfortunately the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's so bloody hot in this car. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you faces in my next video.
I wanna see you in slow motion. Come stay the night, we can stay up till it's bright. In the morning, got the top open.